Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Research Talks Qualitative Conversations. I'm Ray Maeda, president of Research Talk. My colleague Jeff Petrozelli is here. Jeff, can you introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Ray. So I'm Jeff Petrozelli, a qualitative research specialist with Research Talk since 2001, and looking forward to talking with our guest today.
Yes, and today we have a special edition of our show with one of my favorite people. So, Tony Adams, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, folks. I'm Tony Adams. I am a Caterpillar Professor of Communication at Bradley University. I'm also the Department Chair of Communication, also at Bradley University. Happy to be with you all today.
And so people don't confuse the caterpillar part with the very hungry caterpillar. What does that mean?
It is an endowed professorship from the Caterpillar manufacturing they do all the fancy building equipment. They have a big operation in Peoria, Illinois, and so they have been very generous with their financial resources and created a few endowed professorships, and I have been very lucky to be one of the endowed professorships.
Well earned. It's a wonderful honor. So today, it's an honor for us to be talking to you. And we chat with Tony, work with Tony on lots of stuff. And what we were going to be doing here in the next little bit is talking about sets of resources, a couple of projects that Tony's got underway. And he's a Tony of all trades. We hope that as people watch, they'll come upon things that will be useful for them. One of the things that's always interesting to me is how people assume that if someone works in an area that's not theirs, they're not going to benefit from it. One of the many things Tony does extremely well is autoethnography. Jeff and I, for years, when people register at the summer intensive, have been telling people, even if you think you'll never do it, take it. Just as a good way to kind of think about and process and understand information and social behavior. And I was surprised, Tony, I think you know this, when I found out you weren't actually a PhD sociologist because you speak and live and breathe as a sociologist and more, but you definitely are an expert and have a healthy curiosity for human behavior. Oh, not just other people in the world, but your own and how that engages. So what we're going to do today is just kind of go through. I have a list of 6 things that you're doing that are wonderful. And I bet you might even be doing 7 or 8, but today we'll talk about 6 of them. And what, you ready just to dig in?
Let's go. Yes.
All right, great. So the first thing, I'm going to just mention the title and ask you to describe it, and then Jeff and I may just ask kind of questions to learn more about it. But the project is called Missing Each Other, right?
Missing each other. Yes. Yeah.
All right. And yeah, let us know more about it.
This is one of my pet projects. I've been working on this now for 10 years. Starting this November actually is my 10th year mark. This is a project that in the world of communication and even across my life, and this is ties into method. It's a project that tries to that explores the ways that we mark each other with our words and deeds in everyday life. And with this project in particular, I am focusing on the affirming ways that we can mark each other with our works and deeds. We have a lot of work. There's a lot of work, I think, in across so many disciplines about how our actions can create harm. I think about bullying, sexual assault, the microaggressions. We have all the bad stuff. I really want to, there's a space that I love that is very joyful, and joyful qualified. So there's also a sadness to this, beautiful sadness to it, of how we can change each other with our everyday comments and our actions. I often tell my students when I go into class, I can tear you down with my words on the first of class. You all are terrible. Why did you ever get admitted here? You're going to fail this class. You're ugly. You're terrible. How do you look like that? Or I can lift you up and say, y'all are awesome, and I'm so honored to be with you today. And we're going to have so much fun together and show me your brilliance and beauty. And I can't wait to see it. Who do we want to be is that first part of the question. And this directly tied to the title, the stories that I convey, I call this missing each other, and the stories are variations of missing. So one version of, and all three of these versions of missing are part of the stories that I focus on. So you have the missing part of we've missed the point, the purpose of an exchange being misunderstood, possessing erroneous assumptions, misreading cues. So there's that missing. There's the missing of I miss you. I cherish feelings of absence, this longing. When somebody affects us in affirmative ways, because again, this goes back to the harm. I'm guessing we don't often miss the people who harm us. I don't miss my high school bullies. And then there's the missing of we've missed out and we've missed our chance to tell that person who marked us in beautiful ways how they marked us in beautiful ways. Sometimes this knowledge might not happen until decades later, where I remember a fond comment from a teacher or a stranger that I think about often. Somebody. I have so many moments of being in a coffee shop and the barista saying something really nice to me, and 20 years later I'm like, wow, I can't believe I still live with that remark. And so this is that project to focus on those kinds of exchanges. um, I have it divided the book into chance encounters, which are these fleeting everyday affairs, but also close encounters when this happens with the people who we think that we are closest to, when actually they're even the people we're closest to might be very alien to us. And this plays off of John Durham Peters has a great book called Speaking into the Air, and talks about how our closest relationships, there's still a huge gap. I don't know what you're thinking. You don't know what I'm thinking. We're stuck with language and action to try to figure this out. So that's the gist of the project. The only thing I want to say methodologically, these kinds of stories, they're hard. I couldn't do experiments. Set up, put everybody in a room and watch, be nice to each other in organic way. That's not going to do it. Surveys are not going to capture that. Observing people in natural settings. I don't know when these are going to happen, if they ever happen, because I got to talk with folks about if they happen. I could do interviews, and I'm going to primarily for this first project rely on personal experience and show the kinds of exchanges that I'm talking about. And then once I finish that book, I hope, I have a background in media production. I hope to start a micro podcast about other people's stories of how this happens to them across their life in those fleeting chance encounters, but also in those close encounters. And so the interviews will be a project for the second part once I'm wrapping this up. And I'm close to wrapping this up.
When you're talking about the missing piece, the piece of it that's kind of like people not necessarily like talking, but not kind of being on the same track. I was thinking about someone in my life who, when multiple folks who know this person, we talk about how he takes us in ways we could never have anticipated. None of them anything like what we thought, but in and of themselves, they're fine. But
In good ways?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes they're kind of like, okay. And then other times it's like, well, all right, we didn't accomplish that. But most of the time we can kind of like gear and center to, if there's a task that needs to be accomplished, we can get there. But yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's
So many
great.
people have
But
these
all
stories.
three of those dimensions it's interesting to kind of think about those. What was the title of the book you mentioned just a little bit ago?
Speaking into the Air, history
Yeah.
of the idea of communication. It's my second favorite book. Now, it used to be my favorite book for many, many years until Ocean Vuong's On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous was published. So
Yes.
that's my number one. This is my number two. It's beautiful. It's a really beautiful work.
On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous I don't think that book's missing. That's it's pretty on target.
Yeah,
As is all of his works. So
yeah.
so at what point did you recognize, hey, this is a project?
Oh my gosh. It started on a trip to Edinburgh in November 2015, where this actually started. And uh, one was started with this. I was staying in the hotel next to this coffee shop, and I went into the coffee shop my 5 mornings I was there, and there was a barista who was so beautiful with me, just sweet. And, who are you? Where are you from? What do you want? And started remembering my order on day 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And just this very small talk, which I say it was not small at all. It was actually quite big. So I love this moment with the barista. I did this talk at the University of Edinburgh. And after my talk, a person from the audience, well, I was leaving the building in a dark alley, ran up to me and gave me a book by C.P. Cavafy called Body Remember, and it's a book of poetry, and said, "I'm bringing this to you, and I'm gifting this to you." And he gave it to me, and there were people, I'm leaving this building, and then he left. I have no idea who this person was, and there was an inscription on it. I'll come back to that moment. And then the third thing, I was at a bar and just on that same trip, and just had a really beautiful encounter with somebody, a stranger who I will likely never see again. On my flight back, I just started thinking, like, if somebody asked me what were the highlights of my trip, the barista, this person who gifted me this book, and this exchange at the bar, and it was this, are you kidding? Like, they were so beautifully special. And the book, and then when I read the book, The Body Remember, that this stranger, I read this on the plane ride home. It was also so much about missing these connections that were just so formative. And this was a poet, I think 1870s to 1930s, and it was this all these missing components in this little. It's a little book, and this person, I don't know if the person did it. There was a inscription on the inside in Greek, and so I had a friend who is fluent, have a friend who's fluent in Greek, and I asked him to translate it. And I don't know if the person wrote it, but the inscription was, "Our body is an endless cemetery of desires."
So,
These three moments on this one trip sort of launched me
right.
into this reflection on, what do we do to each other?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are we doing? And which
Right.
also there's a social justice aspect of this, that I show that we have the potential. Who do we want to be? We have the potential to do things with our words and deeds in strategic and affirming ways. And how can we build worlds collectively in which we want to live?
So I had one follow about the gift. Did this person arrive that evening intending to give you?
Isn't that fascinating? Have no idea. I mean, this is what if land. So I'm assuming, I think this person was in the audience. There were probably 60 people in the audience. I asked my Jonathan Wyatt, was the person who, another prominent qualitative researcher. I asked if he remember when I returned from Chicago. I said, "Jonathan, do you know this person?" And because Jonathan was walking with me, and he was like, "I think it was this person. I think he said this." I emailed this person multiple times, didn't hear anything back, and that's it. And
Wow.
so I don't. That's what's eerie. So what's eerie is exactly the question you asked, because my talk that night there was a lot of missing components and desire into it. I
Uh-huh.
study sexuality, a lot of desire in that talk. So it was, people didn't know what I was going to talk about, and a person was in the audience with this little book. And after the live event, the 1 hour talk, gave me this book that was so directly related to that very night's talk. So where did it? I have
Yeah.
no idea. I still see that book and just think, wow, this was such a mundane, special
Right.
moment that was
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
years later. I'm talking about it here.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
one person was so formative in my life, and I'm so grateful for, and who now introduced me to a world of C.P. Cavafy, a poet who had no idea, a Greek poet, no idea what this person's work, who
Wow.
has now directly infused my being in beautiful ways. And I'm forever grateful to somebody who I miss a lot, and I miss the chance to connect with him, and I now miss I don't know who this person is.
So would you mind if we keep track of the names and pieces you're mentioning
Yes,
and
yeah,
just kind of check in with you? We'll get that
absolutely.
perfected and we'll make sure it tails at the end of
Yeah.
today's conversation so people can see them. Yeah, it's amazing to kind of see the flow. It makes me think about moments, and I've always been fascinated with the weight people ascribe to a moment
Yeah.
and how people choose to do that. So it's the part of this that's in it is you're talking about kind of like we could think about agency, right? So we think about the weight we ascribe, but we also don't get to hear how much weight people put to moments we were in with them. So this person who gives you this book to date probably has no idea of its impact. And then,
Exactly.
so then when you get your book published, maybe hopefully they pick it up. Oh,
Exactly.
wow.
That's the sadness that's the beautiful sadness
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I have the book is filled with these moments in these chance encounters, but also these close encounters with relatives who have since died, who just let me be, as I just have so many beautiful moments with some people, from close
Yeah.
relatives who I
Yeah.
exist because they existed and because they nurtured me in such kind and beautiful ways, and I never ever got to thank them. And I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for them, but I'm going to thank them now, and I missed the chance to tell them, but I miss them a lot, and I'm going to put out this book and say, look at these things that can
Yeah.
really be affirming behaviors.
Yeah. And that way you keep them with you and also share
Mhm.
them with others.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think
When
about that. So what's that saying that there are multiple versions of it, but it's something like you're not nobody's really dead until the last person tells their story or
Nice.
speaks
That's
that,
beautiful.
and so it sort of taps right into that
Yeah.
spirit that
Yeah. When you were, I was going to ask you to define marking each other and then just rolled right into it in the way that only you can and kind of beautifully stitching together story and anticipating the things people need to know. It's one of the many things I admire about the way your brain works. But as you were telling the different stories, I don't know about you, Jeff, but I just saw them. They seemed like scenes in whatever it is, a movie or a streaming show or whatever. And I can imagine lots of different fun ways what you put together will be received and what life it winds up happening after it starts as a book. So
absolutely, yeah.
so is it contracted now or has it just been project for Tony so far?
Project for Tony, mostly. I did send parts. I have 90% of it drafted. When I had 60% of it drafted, I did reach out to a few publishers and had some reviews, and they're like, we don't know if this is a trade book or if this is an academic book. But I got great feedback, and it was a moment where the feedback was I sent it to multiple publishers at the time, but it was all lovely. And this is what I love about feedback. It was also enough feedback to say, I need to go back and figure out who I'm talking to and what I want this book to be. And so I'm finishing it up based off that feedback. And then I will start to go back out and pursue publication to see
Yeah.
what I really want it to be, because it was still, that was the big divide. Is this a
Yeah.
popular press book, or is this going to be a
Right.
much more
Yeah.
of an academic audience?
I think a lot, and Jeff knows this about what I call unfortunate dichotomies.
Hmm.
And a trade or an academic book is an example of an unfortunate dichotomy.
Agreed.
So yeah, so it's wonderful. I had one more question about this. We'll see what Jeff's thinking. Anything else you want to say? We'll shift gears. This is so different in a great way than the other topics we'll talk about today. But who do you envision holding the book and working through it?
Oh
Who
yeah,
would do
there's
it
the
if
audience
it's affordable?
question.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, and this is a terrible it's a false dichotomy. I would primary audiences. I would love anybody interested in relationships. It is very relationship driven. The significance, the power of communication. That cuts across industries. Um, and so it becomes a matter of, if I pursue the much more popular academic route, trying to write it in a way that's accessible to larger audience. Or if I write to academic, what do they expect? Are they going to want to know a lot about? One comment was, "Where's the methods stuff?" Well, the methods stuff's going to be in the appendix, and it's not going to look like a traditional. This is exactly what I did, and I, spent 240 hours living my life, and I had 640 encounters. It's not it's not going to be
yeah,
that at all. But I hope anybody interested in relationships, the significance of our words and deeds, across again our everyday moments, moving through the world. We are social beings. We are entangled entangled with others, and uh, a meta version on how relationships work and what kind of worlds do we want to build. And so definitely a wider audience. And I get the confusion. If you live in false dichotomy, you know,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
they're going to be asking that. And that's um, I will probably go towards the academic press with the hope that it would have a larger readership, but I do that much more for seeing how the book is taking shape. The book is
Yeah.
it's my project first, so it's not I'm not concerned about it. I'm confident that it will be published. I just it's my project and I'm going to figure out where it's going to fit best.
Yeah. And if this is helpful, when I think about who I see, working through the book and who I would like to talk to about it. And first, I, of course, as somebody who studies sociology of relationships,
Yeah.
but I think of each of my sisters and different kinds of things I would talk to both of them about and different missings where that would resonate. And then my colleague, Rebecca, who's a professor and sociologist, and we were in grad school together and taught intimate relationships together, a class that Jeff was a teaching assistant for. And, I can envision each of them processing, and it just so happens that each one is female. I don't think the audience would be primarily female. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's an, hey Jeff, where are you like as you're listening to this? I don't know if you've heard about this project from Tony yet.
No, no, I haven't. And I don't really have a question, but I guess it's more just commentary. It just seems like a very timely and important book for what's going on in our world right now. I don't want to get too political, but obviously it's there's very much a lot of people are butting heads. There's very much an us versus them mentality going on, and it is amazing to just be reminded that just the smallest thing that you can do in a positive way, just saying hello to somebody, can make such a big impact. And especially nowadays, people are kind of walking on eggshells, afraid to say anything to anybody because you don't know what the reaction is going to be. But just a little bit of kindness, it really, as they say, goes a long way. And I think it's a helpful reminder and a reminder that we all need right now at this point in time. So I would love if this book did see a very wide audience that goes, beyond academia into just everyday life, because it's very much needed right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. I want to, so this goes back to audience. Jeff, your comments remind me of what in communication world, there's another great book called, oh my gosh, it's Michael Hyde, but I forgot his title of the book. I think it's Acknowledgement, The Life-Giving Gift of Acknowledgement. But one of Michael Hyde's key fundamental principles of that entire book is saying, "Hi, I see you." That's life-giving. "Hi, I recognize you. You exist." That that's a life-giving gift in communication. That very act, the attention we give is a life-giving gift. There's that, and then let's switch audiences in the book. In the draft of the book, Dolly Parton has the saying, if you see somebody without a smile, give them yours. And these mundane,
Yeah.
same principle. You have academic here and Dolly Parton here, and both are beautiful, and
Yeah.
it's going right there.
Yeah, I was also reminded of that saying. It's also a song that they sing in an episode of The Simpsons, which I'm a big fan of. But a stranger's just a friend you haven't met. So
Oh,
kind of
yes.
thought of it.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know the origin, but yeah, that's one that you hear every now and then. And
Exactly.
it's when you really think about it, it's another way. Just kind of put yourself out there, and
Yeah.
maybe you make a friend, and maybe you just have this great encounter that you mentioned. So it's just try, basically.
Yeah.
Uh, Great. So as we shift gears here, I'm going to mention three things you're working on, Tony, that with colleagues of yours
Mhm.
that are one will soon be a wonderful resource for folks. There's two that are and have been, and just a little bit about each, kind of just a little description about, I'm not sure if people are aware. One is assessing autoethnography, which you're doing with Andrew Herrmann, and another is the Journal of Autoethnography, and also Writing Lives, which you're doing with Art Bachner and Carolyn Ellis.
Yeah.
Folks don't realize that that project is 30 years old. And as Tony Adams on board for roughly 10. I don't know if everyone in our audience will know what autoethnography is. So if you could start by giving just a brief kind of idea for folks what autoethnography is, and then if you want to start with the assessing autoethnography, the journal or writing lives, but yeah, a little bit about each so they can figure out if it's something they should pursue. My answer to the should they pursue it is yes, but let me give it to you. And yeah, so let us know a bit about autoethnography.
I like to describe autoethnography as recognizing autoethnographic projects are the method recognizes the, to use a bigger word, the epistemic potential of our lived experience, the how we learn things by moving through the world, the lessons that we receive. But we're going to, that might sound initially like autobiography, life writing, that a lot of personal experience, but here's where the ethnography comes in. Autoethnographers take personal experience and demonstrate the ways, work to demonstrate, the autoethnographic project works to demonstrate the ways that cultural discourses, others, cultural norms, and values infuse our personal experiences. There are so many versions of this that you go, the personal is political, an autoethnographic project would take the personal experience and tease out the political aspects of that experience. There's also the graphy component, and that is a care about how we represent our research. I often say autoethnography is one of the few methods that has graphy in the title of the it's a core component of the method, and this gets into some assessing. It frustrates me that people don't treat graphy like that. We don't do interview graphy research, we don't do survey graphy, we don't do case study graphy research, we don't do phenomenology graphy research, though there is a world of autophenomenography, and I have practiced saying that word multiple times. There's a growing world of autophenomenography. The graphy uh, uh, says we need to care about how we represent our experiences. And often with autoethnography, you rely on life writing. How do life writers represent their experience, their personal experience? How do ethnographers represent their experiences? Story, story, story. That's good life writers. They know how to tell good stories, or you're not going to read the book, buy the book, whatever. Good ethnographers. This is oh my gosh, good ethnographers tell stories. It's
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
they tell stories. You put those two components together for autoethnography, you're a storyteller, and you're telling about the ways that your personal experience and social interactions and cultural experience intersect. And that's the autoethnography project. You're teasing that out to show those connections, often with a purpose. There's I often say, not all folks say this, autoethnographies have research questions. We have a reason to do this work. We might be confused about something. We might recognize in the missing each other project. I think that we don't take not we generally, I don't think there's enough attention to these everyday fleeting encounters. How do we study those moments with the barista? How do we study the moments on the bus or the train or the plane? How do we get there? We can't do an experiment. How do we get there? And that's the kind of question that autoethnography is going
Yeah.
to do.
Well, the other thing too with autoethnography, again, revisiting the point from missing each other, is they bridge and are attractive to both audiences done well. So
Absolutely.
it's great. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the assessing autoethnography, want to just give people a feel for what that project is with Andrew Herrmann?
Yes, so that is a book that Andrew Herrmann and I published last October, August 2024. This stemmed from Andrew and I started the Journal of Autoethnography in spring of 2020, and what didn't exist in that such we at the journal and even others, Mitch Allen was a person who would ask this, Hannah Shakespeare, who's a prominent editor at Routledge, would ask us, hey, we need a book on how to evaluate autoethnographic texts, and you all started the first and still only journal in autoethnography. Why don't you work on this book? We started this book in 2020 when we launched the journal, not realizing the kinds of manuscripts and the number of manuscripts we received. We received so many manuscripts that when we actually sat down to write this book, we realized that we had just us had worked with more than 700 manuscripts and 1,400 reviews at
Wow.
least. We're probably in the definitely in the thousands range now. And
Yeah.
so we wanted to take sort of an autoethnography of evaluating autoethnography. So, not pull, not use that as strict. We're not going to use this as formal data. We're not going to, we aren't telling people we're doing this. We just want to. There are the themes that come across, the things that we realize that we convey to authors about doing autoethnography. One being, you got to have the auto. You got to have the ethno, you got to have the graphy, you got to attend to those three
Right.
things. We get manuscripts that do not have any personal experience. We're not the journal for you. We get manuscripts that are all personal experience and have no concern about any cultural discourses, values, social interactions, others. Not the place for you. We get the manuscripts that don't care about representation and don't care about storytelling. Not necessarily the place. So this is a book that is a collection of it's really is divided into our opening experience, how we came to this world, and we have a chapter on autography, ethno. And the last thing, we have a chapter, the opening chapter is the purpose of assessment. One of the things with autoethnography, we get this we get a lot of this, people saying, this is my personal experience. How do you evaluate personal experience? How do you assess it?
Yeah. Right.
We can. Mostly it's how you talk about it, how you frame it. We've never said you're a liar or you're making this up or we don't believe you. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how you frame it and how you're putting that experience to use.
Right.
And the claims you're making, the ideas that you're pulling from that experience. And so that's where we also make the case for evaluation. We call that first chapter, people say we don't need to assess. We don't need to assess. We all assess everything. The chapter's titled on tap into some Latin, on being homo assessors. So that's chapter that's chapter one, and it's making the case for assessment. The series we watch on TV, the books we read and don't read, the foods we like and don't like, the company we choose not to keep and to keep. We're doing assessing all the time. Knock it off to say that we shouldn't or don't. We should be mindful about how we are doing this assessment, and in the context of autoethnography, which is a very personal endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too, when you talk about the three components of autoethnography, they're not simply checklist items. Got that one, got that one, got that one. The three of them, I'm thinking of the word dance, but kind of tangle, mingle.
Yeah,
And that's the other piece of it is this kind of the intermingling of them is what really puts strong autoethnographic work out there in a way that is attractive to the intellectual academic type, the curious folks who are wandering day to day and thinking about the issue of whatever book or article they happen to be,
right.
working with or reading. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's great. So the Journal of Autoethnography you mentioned, and so that's now in its fifth year. It's available in libraries and things. But
yeah.
what publishing company does it come out with?
That's
And
with the University of California Press. And
okay,
they have been fantastic to work with. Really love working with them. And they've
uh,
supported this the entire way. And it is, hopefully, it's been really good for them too. But I think they've been amazed with the volume of uh, submissions and the kinds of submissions we receive. And the thing I want to mention that is so cool about working with autoethnography is I identify first and foremost as a qualitative methodologist, much more than my discipline of communication. And this journal illustrates this beautifully. we don't work with communication people. We work from folks from so many disciplines around the world, geologists. We have three manuscripts right now that are coming, medical doctors incorporating autoethnography into the teaching of
Beautiful.
the instruction of medical doctors. We have accountants, construction folks, therapists, of course, your education folks, they're in there. And you know how cool that is? This
Oh,
is,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And then there's writing lives. So that's another dimension to this whole piece. Let you talk about that. And again, you're with that. That's Art Bachner and Carolyn Ellis are, folks who you know fairly well. But yeah, tell us a little bit about writing lives.
Absolutely. This is a book series that Art and Carolyn, who are prominent narrative researchers and autoethnographers especially, started in 95 to 96. I can't remember if they started with Sage. They either started with Sage and then went with Altamira, or did Altamira and then went with Sage. And then they went to Left Coast. They went to Altamira, became Rowman and Littlefield, and then they went with Left Coast Press, and then Routledge purchased Left Coast Press. So this series has been around for almost 30 years, which it has to be one of the longest running
Yeah.
books series. That it's got to be up there with
Right.
one of the longest running series. This is a collection on that takes both parts of that term, writing lives, seriously. Not It's giving us the space to write about our lives, and the emphasis and the care and attention to craft, and the how do we write our lives. Um, those variations of the title matter for the works that we include. I believe there are probably at least 55, 56 titles in the series. And it
Wow.
just keeps, we have some really great works we're doing right now. I think we have about
And
4 to 5 manuscripts we're working on.
and if somebody were just looking at that list of titles,
Mhm.
that seems like that would be pretty good reading. Just
Yes,
the
absolutely.
titles alone.
Yes. I love
Uh,
the again also to look at the diversity of topics and
yeah.
authors, and
Right.
it's neat.
Are there any repeat authors?
Yeah, yes, we have a few, but not many. We actually talk. It's interesting. It's one thing we talk about. We don't have that many repeat authors. Laurel Richardson and Ron Pelias are probably our repeat authors. Dave Purnell just published his new book, and so he had an edited collection a few years ago on family estrangement, and he just published an autoethnography about passing and gay identity. So he would be a repeat author, but very uh, beyond that, no. So
Wow.
these are folks from.
If somebody wanted to study narrative and autoethnography both, that's quite a database, those
Yeah,
55, 56 pieces.
yeah.
That'd be a great project.
And
Uh,
Art and Carolyn are my adopted parents, and Art was my dissertation director in 2008. He was also Andrew Herrmann's dissertation director in
oh, okay.
2008. We defended within 4 days of each other. You're seeing some of these
Oh,
connections.
wow.
And Carolyn, of course, was on my committee, and they're some of the closest people in my life. And so the personal, I wanted to emphasize with autoethnography, the personal is also very much present in the work that we do. We don't hide from it. It is front and center to this work.
Our community is an interesting one, the lines and the connections. And Carolyn and I certainly were not in grad school together. We're just separated by a few years, but she and I had almost the same dissertation committee. And we connected off of that. I think, oh, Carolyn gave a talk at Stony Brook University when I was a grad student. And then the two people who were both on our committee kind of were like, saw that we could connect and certainly did. Yeah. And it's kind of, and of course, that's through Carolyn is how I met you. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, and
I
then
love
Jeff
that.
through
Love
me.
that.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So the piece of this is it's interesting, Tony, hearing you. There's so much going on that you and your colleagues are kind of engaged in of different volumes, different pieces to different audiences, the cross-disciplinary piece. messages of how we live our lives. And,
Mhm.
it really is this stuff of stories of not only everyday life, but relationships and, behaviors we have to engage in, whether we want to or not, how reflective we are. But it really is this kind of studying human behavior and relationships and, thinking of things in that way. It's what we do as qualitative researchers. So, and
Absolutely.
yeah, it's interesting too to see kind of the kinds of messages, the academic messages that come from autoethnography, and to compare the strength and utility of those messages to pieces produced on the same topic through other means. So it's certainly you all have grounded narrative and autoethnography in a way that really shows this is a very healthy and useful way to produce theory, to produce applied work, to really think about grounding for future research. This is utility. There is usefulness, and at the same time, it's kind of fun. It's good content. It's so it's rich in and of itself. So we just have a couple more minutes, but there are two other resources I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to check in with Jeff. Jeff, I don't know if you before today realized that Tony's kind of busy.
I just love hearing Tony about all the different types of submissions that you're getting for the journal from across disciplines, and I just wonder if you have any thoughts about why autoethnography may be spreading to some of these areas that you wouldn't necessarily think it would
Beautiful.
it would be attractive to.
Honestly, I think that it goes back to the uh, people were so people in the I don't know the time. I mean, this is arbitrary, but I'm thinking, in my brief history of formal folks doing social research, I don't know what timestamps you would put on the 1880 to 19 early 1970s. I don't know, like sort of social research world development formally, in academic institutions. There was a, a fear of a lack of realization of the epistemic potential of personal experience. What can we learn about from being in the world outside of, philosophers are doing that. I think so much of philosophy
Yeah.
is autoethnographic. They're writing about these dense terms from their experience. Um, that I think part of that is just people recognizing that that's a stupid barrier to put up, that um, we cannot we cannot mention our personal experience in our work because it might be biased, or it might be too subjective, by even including a positionality statement. And I think that that's a big part of, at least from my perspective, of people just having that freedom to say, I'm doing I'm doing uh, tons of works and experiments on breast cancer because I've had breast cancer, because a parent had breast cancer, a friend had breast cancer, and they meant the world to me. And we don't get to say that. Oh, here's my distance breast research on breast cancer, and I pretend I'm not in that. And I think people are getting the um, freedom license to say, I can tell you why I'm interested in this topic. That's the one of the best questions I've learned to ask non-auto ethnographers. I have a friend who teaches about addiction, and I said, ask, why do you care about addiction? Who cares? And this person says, this person in my life, this person in my life, this person in my life. Beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
share
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's Yeah. And these people in our lives are probably like and unlike people in other people's lives in ways that are useful.
Yeah.
And we get so lost that we forget the value of content
Yes.
and then the fit of content. And it matters.
Yeah.
And why should ideas that are fruitful and move our minds forward be closed off? And it really is kind of a way I think of the kind of work, knowing, of course, you, Art, and Carolyn really well, it's pioneering. Oh, it really is this kind of warrior spirit of, let's kind of get this out there and, fight for the right for people to learn from. how people are living their lives. So yeah. So there are two very different things we were going to close with, just kind of it just made people aware of the International Association of Autoethnography and Narrative Inquiry, and you gather and have gathered in different ways over the years. I know it's the event that is associated with the International Association of Autoethnography and Narrative Inquiry is in person every other year and online. So if you can just kind of give folks a sentence about that. And then the other is there is a certificate in autoethnography available. So as we close, if you could just close us out by giving a sentence about each of those resources.
Sure. I work, one of the things that I love across all my work and especially in this conversation, I am also very passionate about autoethnography. Art Bachner says that, we live autoethnography. We live the autoethnographic life. I've lived the autoethnographic life for a long time with the journal, the book series, with my work, with this organization. So this is I encourage folks to go to iaani.org, and I am currently the executive director of that organization, and we've typically have an COVID sort of shifted this a bit. We typically have an in-person gathering in Florida every other January. We're having the next one January 2026. We also, because of COVID, in a beautiful way, we love this, moved online, and we wanted to see how a conference would go online, and it's the International Symposium on Autoethnography and Narrative. And one of the things a few big things that we did with that symposium that we now offer, it's now every March. People have to present their work in advance, and if they want to present at the symposium, because then in the one thing we asked folks in terms of feedback, what do you not like about online conferences? And one of the immediate feedback, we don't like people just talking to us on a screen. We want discussion, we want questions and answers and interaction. And so we did this model: pre-record your presentation, show up to this live event, and have a discussion about the presentation that people can review at least a month in advance. They can review these pre-recorded presentations. Last year we had this event. We also then learned so many benefits of using YouTube. You get translation, you get captioning, you can connect with the author, you can comment on the work, you can rewatch aspects of the presentation that you couldn't do in a live setting. And so there are so many accessibility components that just of course we didn't really know, all of the benefits of all of them coming together until we actually ran one. And this last year we ran it in 4 languages. So we had English, Polish, Spanish, and Japanese. And this next year we're expanding that to include German and Portuguese. So it will be we will have it in 6 languages, and have a lot of helpers in each of those other languages. I'm not fluent in any of them. But we have helpers to make that possible, and it's cool. It's so fantastic to see people from all over the world. We adjust
Right.
the presentations on time zones. When I do the scheduling, I have my world map of the time zones, and some folks can't go at 9 a.m. and some folks can't go at 5 p.m. And so we try to be really mindful even about regarding the scheduling of the presentations.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing with online that we learned at Research Talk after COVID with the classes we offered is all these years we did this event in person when you participated with us in person, and Art and Carolyn have, and it was wonderful. It was a great energy, all of this stuff. But there are folks who their lives don't allow them ever to travel, whether it's health issues, whether it's, and organizations did silly things with funding where some people would get travel funding, but not money to attend a conference or to attend a class. And then others will get money to go to the conference and pay the fees or to pay the course of courses, but they wouldn't get travel money. And then other people have babies or whatever it might be, or life responsibilities that prohibit them. So it really opens up so much. And then by the multiple languages and things, it's great. And then finally, Tony, there's I don't know how many people are aware, but they will be now, of the certificate in autoethnography. You just let folks know a little bit about that, and then we will close out
It,
there.
absolutely. Thank you. That has been also a different kind of project that stem from a question. Again, I like talking with people, and there's often a question of how can I learn autoethnography if if there's not a faculty member who teaches it or my university doesn't offer it. One of the initial barriers, well, I just can't offer a class on autoethnography at my university. I can't just put I could at Bradley University, I could offer a class on autoethnography and tell people to take it. However, there are so many limitations. If either of you wanted to take that class, you'd have to apply to the university, you'd have to
Right.
pay the tuition, you'd have to work with the university fees and register, you'd get the university email. So much red tape just to take a class that it's ridiculous. Approached our continuing education department at Bradley and said, "Can I run a 6 week certificate course on autoethnography available to anyone in the world?" This is not for course credit, but they have to pay to take the 6 week course, but it's half the price of a typical tuition. Of course, the cost can be prohibitive for some folks. We try to keep that as low as possible. We also adjust the time zones every time it's offered to accommodate various time zones around the world. It has been a phenomenal experience. I started this in spring 2023. So far, we've had more than 70 people have taken it, and from so many different disciplines. From counseling, there was a priest who took it one time. We have some communication folks. We had not medical doctors, but folks working in medical industries who have taken it, and from all ranges. So last summer, the cohort, we had over 15 learners in there. 11 of them were full professors. That is a beautiful kind of different. It changes all of the time. But that kind of opportunity, it just opens up opportunity for so many people to formally learn about autoethnography for 6 weeks. It's been a lot of fun. And I
Oh,
hope to
wow.
keep doing that. And anybody can take it. You don't have to apply to university. You just sign up for the course as
Right.
it should be.
It's beautiful. Anything you want to offer as we close up? Kind of a lot going on.
Thank you all for all the work that you have done, because you directly contribute to this as well, and QRSI has for many 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 years, just with how you opened of encouraging folks to take autoethnography. You have
Yes.
always been like that.
Oh, it's yeah.
I learned that when I think I taught my first class with you in 2013 in person. So you've always been right there with everybody doing this work,
Oh,
and
yeah,
so you've
absolutely.
been part
Yeah.
to. Thank you. This is not a misconnection. Thank you both. I
Oh,
didn't miss
and
thanking you.
and we give yes, we give very high weight to every moment that we've had in those exchanges. So, Jeff,
Absolutely.
anything before we close out you want to point out or?
No, I think I'm good. I did just want to mention, Tony, this is totally separate, but early on in the qualitative research summer intensive, Carolyn taught an autoethnography class that Ray and I sat in. I don't think you know the story, and that's the class that really opened my mind up to the power of this approach. And she had everybody write a piece, and then I read mine in class. It was about a friend of mine that had passed away in the mid 90s, and it just and I know I when I was writing it, I really immersed myself in that moment and really thought back and really tried to capture what I was feeling, and it was just so powerful. And just that moment, just like I was like, wow, this is really just an amazing form of really just of approaching life, of just outside of even the academic world. Is just it's just a great way to kind of just immerse yourself and just kind of get in touch with feelings and thoughts that you might not have had in the moment, but as you look back and consider everything that was going on, it kind of changed my world in a lot of ways. And I just always appreciated that. So autoethnography is I think it's just such an important thing for everybody to learn.
And I think that was Jeff, that class was 2005 or so.
Yeah, something like that, 2004 or five, something like that.
And my contribution there was about my vision. And I had, as you know, decades of battles with, states of losing eyesight and things of that sort. And I had just gotten contact lenses that, I could see things. And I was like, well, there's stuff on the very right side. And on the way to class, the second day of the class, I was driving and my contact popped out of my eye and I couldn't find it. But yeah, so but it connected this whole kind of, it's not, there's the expression of personal is political, but the personal is so much more than just political. Oh, and I think that was it, just kind of the empowerment that comes from, and it's not questioning in the sense of is it legitimate or not? It's what's the nature of, like, what's it all mean? And even, people kind of think what's personal for us is static. And that's the other part of consuming or reading any ethnographic piece. We see that, what it is to us, who we are ourselves, how we understand ourselves necessarily evolves. Oh, and like anything, the field has evolved, that's a good thing. So, and it's one of the many reasons why I love supporting y'all and the stuff that you do. So, well, thank you so much, Tony. Always fun. Keep us up to date, and whatever way we can be a resource, we're happy to do so, my friend. So, all right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks a lot.